Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And today I have a really interesting guy here. His name is Michael Schauch, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's Schauch. Is that correct, Michael? Since you're
Just
sitting here?
Schauch, yeah.
Schauch. Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Easier than it
cool.
looks.
That's easier, yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael Schauch is here today, and we're going to talk about his book. It's called A Story of Karma. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you guys, I'm holding the book up, and this is a really interesting story. He's actually a climber, a mountain climber, and he had a really cool experience, a spiritual experience. And we're going to talk about that today because we could use some insight spiritually with the way the world is. I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel. I try to answer all the messages that you guys send me. Thank you, much appreciated. If you want to book a psychic reading with me, go to my website, nancyyearout.com, and you can book there. There's a calendar and you can pick out your date and time. Now, with everything going on, like I said, with humanity, and things are not getting any better, you guys. We had the guy about the border yesterday, and we've had so much unrest going on in our country. So it's nice that Michael's here today. And sit back and relax and let me read his bio. So Michael Schauch is a mountaineer. He's an entrepreneur and he's a storyteller who lives to explore remote places around the world and to share the depth and beauty of human connection he discovers along the way. I really like that. With early success as an entrepreneur at age 15 and over 20 years of global financial investment experience, Schauch brings his business acumen and altruistic heart to help lead and support local and international mentorship, fundraising, and educational initiatives. Wow, Michael, welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thanks for having me on the show here.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here. I checked out your book and it's not what it seems. It's called A Story of Karma. So immediately you think karma, but that's not what it's about. Tell the audience your story. I mean, I know it's do the best you can. I know it's
I'll
it's
try
a
to
long one.
keep it brief.
Yeah, well, you don't have to. I mean, tell your story. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, well, so the journey, it starts about going into the Himalaya, into this little place called the Lost Valley of Narfu. And this valley, it had been closed off to outsiders for many, many years, for generations. And this was back in 2011. We sat down with a gentleman, Mick, and he told us about this valley. It had been my dream to go to the Himalaya and go to Nepal and climb there since I was a kid.
And I wanted to ask you about that. How old were you and what happened that made you want to go to the Himalayas? I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, Nancy, it's funny that you asked that because I didn't understand it back then. I just felt this very strong draw, deep from really deep within me to
like
go
in your gut, like in your soul.
my gut, in my soul, my heart, just to go over there. And again, it's almost like a calling, right? And I didn't really understand it back at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being a sort of a fanatic about mountaineering, the Himalaya, like the 8,000, 7,000 meter peaks was a huge draw as well.
Right.
So, but then there was the people and the culture and just the whole, I don't know, it's just something that very spoke to me very deeply about that place. Okay. And so it wasn't until though, even though I felt that, it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I finally was able to get there. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason was because I didn't really know where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do there. And I didn't have the funding when I was younger and when I was working on my career and stuff like that, I couldn't take a big chunk of time off. So, right. So all these kind of obstacles were there, or maybe not obstacles, but the flow didn't seem like quite aligned.
The timing wasn't right. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were sitting down with this one gentleman, Mick, who we met, kind of like all these pieces, it was synchronistic. All these pieces came together and and my wife Chantal and I were there in this restaurant, and he said, I got to tell you about this little relatively unknown valley called the Lost Valley of Narfu. And
Okay.
and he started showing me his pictures, and I thought, wow, I knew right away, this is the place. Like, this is the place that I'm meant to go to. And the people, like, he was showing me the pictures of the villages, and this place, this valley had been closed off, to the outside world. So it had just been opened a few years before that.
Why had it been closed off to the outside world?
Well, Nepal was kind of like that. I mean, Nepal as a country had been closed to the outside world for, until relatively recently. And then they kind of systematically started opening up different parts of it. So the Annapurna circuit, for example, which is like, now it's the busiest, one of the busiest tourist treks out there, that was only opened in the 70s. And part of the reason,
I didn't realize that. I knew that
Yeah.
I kind of knew that, but I didn't really realize that some of these places weren't even open to
Yeah.
people.
I mean, part of
crazy.
it, they didn't have the infrastructure, right, for people to go venturing in there. And also it was relatively unsafe too, because, in the 50s, when China came into Tibet there and sort of took over Tibet, a lot of Tibetans fled, south into Nepal, and there were like these they called them Kampa warriors, who were, doing raids back into Tibet, trying to get their land back. And they were staging it from the northern parts of Nepal. So it was very, it wasn't a safe place to necessarily go.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's cool. I'm glad you hit me. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so this, time went on, and then now this valley had just been opened, and I thought, wow. And we understood from Mick, our friend there, that because it had just been opened, it was going to be experiencing some unprecedented change. So, so the people going in, bringing the modern world in, right? Bringing technologies and all of that, communications in these places. There wasn't even any communications at that time, right? So it's not like people could look up, oh, what's happening in the news today, or what's happening in the rest of the world. There was no electricity even, right? Not even any toilets at that time. They were really, and geographically, you imagine these 7,000 meter peaks, very, very deep gorges of valleys.
I bet it was beautiful.
Oh, stunning.
Like breathtaking.
Absolutely breathtaking. I mean, one of the most breathtaking places I have ever been in my life.
Yeah.
But because geographically it's so extreme, like this vertical world, that kind of kept them sort of naturally cut off from the rest of the world as well.
Which is not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, no. I mean, yeah, there's the pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I was going to say, that might not be a bad thing right now.
But that's kind of one of the major themes that, as the story goes, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but one of the big questions that I was struggling with over the years that followed, and also our first time in there, was, what's right? Like, what's the right way? Like, what is progress, right? And what is the right way for progress? Like, if you have this, this culture, these people that have been living a certain way for many, many years, hundreds of years, and then and suddenly you have this influx of modern technology and internet and communication and pop culture and fashion and all this stuff.
Well, how was it? Like, how did they handle it? Like, how?
Well, I mean, they're handling it. They're actually experiencing, and not only there, but I think it's happening in many places around the world similar to that. But I think it's all about, I know the questions that they're asking are the right questions. They're asking, how do we move forward, but retain control of who we are? So it's almost like, how do we move forward, but not get swept up in this idea that we have to, lose our identity or
yeah,
conform.
It's really funny you would bring this up, because I feel like we need to go backwards. The United States, we need to go back to like our roots, to our integrity, like what happened to, and that's what they have. They have all those stories and all their history and all the stuff that we used to have, and we've lost it. And you saw that when you went there, didn't you?
Yeah, it's this very deep human presence.
I bet.
Almost like a soulful presence. And we, I mean, if you think about it, like, we don't really cultivate that, in our school systems, in the way that we're brought up,
Right.
For a long time. I mean, even now, to a certain degree, it's kind of frowned upon. You try and connect on that basis, because again, I'm not trying to say one way is right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's
No judgment.
no judgment. Yeah, because there's enough of that flying around these
That's
days.
right.
But it's part of us. Is I think that's what it means to be human. I mean, if you think about, we are nature at the most fundamental level, and nature. I mean, I spent enough time in nature over the years to know that it has a natural flow about it. I mean, nature doesn't just do things randomly for,
Well, and it's
everything
healing. It's healing
yeah.
to be out in nature, and people don't realize that who don't spend time in nature. It's very healing to be in nature. The energy is healing, and that's your meditation. I kind of figured that out from your book. That's your meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
Is,
Yeah, it's getting like plugging back into that awareness of who we are, right? Nature opens that up, and that's what these people, what I know, one of the first things I noticed when we got up there into these mountains, into these sort of mountain dwellings, that's what I noticed. Like this, there's this, you just looked in their eyes and you could see.
What you see?
It's almost like they looked at you as though they were looking at you from their soul.
Yeah.
And there was no like surface like facade or pretense or judgment we talked about. There was none of that. There was just like, here is a soul to soul connection.
Well, they didn't know to be any different because they were never taught to be any different.
Exactly. Yeah. And then kind of, and they were, tuned into that deep, again, what it means to be human. Yeah. The deep energy. And that I should mention that this valley, we found out later, is considered what the Tibetans call a Bayul. And Bayul is a sacred valley. Actually, the Dalai Lama himself has said that the Bayul is a place where the physical and spiritual realms
I read that in your
coalesce.
book.
Yeah, they come closer together, right? And we felt that out there. I mean, it was like it was this sense of more oneness, more connection, and it lasted like even. I mean, we spent 4 weeks out there in that valley, but even when we got back, I remember to North America, there were times where I still remember seeing like colors were sharper, sensations were deeper.
Things were better. You're going to have to tell us more about it when we come back from commercial break. Hey, you guys, I'm here today with Michael Schauch, and his book is called A Story of Karma. Okay. I'm sure we can pick it up on Amazon. Is that right? Amazon,
your local bookstores should be able to order if they don't have it there in stock as well.
Okay, cool. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout, and we're here today with Michael Schauch, and he's talking to us about A Story of Karma, and we haven't got to the really interesting part yet. So you go, and I'm going to kind of go ahead a little bit.
No, this is good. I'm loving the dialogue.
No, but you go and you go to this place, and you're there. I just want to get this part out. You go there to climb a mountain. Because you think, and I'm looking to see what the name of the mountain was. You've seen a picture of this mountain. It's called Chaco Mountain. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you want to climb it. So tell the story. I mean, what happened with your climbing? Tell that story.
Yeah. No, this mountain, I mean, first of all, when I saw the picture of it, it was like a white pyramid coming out of the earth. I mean, it just totally.
So the valley's here, right? So where's the mountain? Is it like?
Well, I didn't know that at the time. I mean, I saw the picture, but I knew it was somewhere in the valley, but I didn't know exactly where it was. But it was far north. Like it was about a 2 or 3 day trek north of this most remote village outpost in that entire valley.
All right. Wow. Okay.
So it took us 2 days to find it. And when we finally found it, that's when things started unraveling. Things started falling apart. And for example, we got caught in a snowstorm at 17,000 feet. My gear bags with my climbing gear, the mule that was carrying it took off on me, and was, a day lost behind us. And so all these things started, I don't know, these, just, it's almost like I was stopped, right? Like,
I call it divine intervention, Michael.
That's exactly what it was. Although I didn't know that that's what it was at the time.
So at the time you were probably really freaking out, huh?
Well, I was just thinking to myself, why are all these things happening at the very doorstep of this place that I've wanted to be? It was my dream to climb a mountain like that since I was a teenager. And why is my dream being crushed on the very foot of the mountain? And it kind of forced me to hunker down in that little village, the little village of Fu. And To be honest, Nancy, I went through a full-blown identity crisis.
Yeah, I read that in your book.
Yeah.
Well, because, and I could see it, it was interesting because I could see it, by reading your book, that you had dreamed of this your whole life and thought this was the ultimate, but then realized this wasn't the ultimate.
It wasn't the, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was like, what?
Well, it was funny because I realized that, everything inside of me obviously wanted to move forward, right? To meet the goal, or, try and climb the mountain.
Yeah.
But everything outside of me was guiding me somewhere else. And I didn't know where. Like, I had no idea. I'm like, why is everything outside of me guiding me in this different direction? But in the end, I just had to trust it. I just had to choose to trust in that unfolding of events.
Right.
And I think, that was a big lesson for me. And maybe a big lesson for all of us. How often are we kind of faced with that sort of decision or crossroads where, everything we think we should be doing is one way, but circumstances are guiding us, or that divine intervention. Yeah,
that's what the COVID did. For better or for worse, it made people start to realize what was important. And I think that's what happened to you with the snowstorm, when you went in and you had to chill for a bit, and then it made you go within.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very powerful, right? It's because, again, like, the mountain's a very outward journey, but anytime, you're faced with something like that, it, as you say, like, it forces you to go inside as well. And I totally agree. I think COVID has done that to us. It's empowered us to really think about what's important. Why are we doing the things we're doing? Why are we on this path? Maybe we have to make, pivots in certain ways. It doesn't have to be huge pivots necessarily, but maybe there's opportunities for us to find out what no longer serves us,
right?
Or focus on what serves us for our future.
Yes.
So anyway, that's kind of what I was going through in the middle of the mountains up there.
Crazy. And you had people with you. You had a couple guys with you.
Oh yeah. My wife Chantal was with me, and fortunately she was very patient. And we had this little team together, a musician, a photographer, and a nature artist, because part of the objective, or part of the intention of going in there was to kind of capture a moment in time, learn and observe from the people there, before things changed too much.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. So we were having, they were having this very deep experience with the people there. And while I was off, trying to find this mountain, and when I came back, I met this one young man. Our paths happened to cross just at that time. And he had left the village when he was 14, and he had just come back. He hadn't seen his family or his home in 7 years. And him and I, we started taking these walks together. We became friends over several days, and his name is Sonam Dorje, and Sonam Dorje and I, he would teach me about sort of Tibetan Buddhism and, his village culture, the people, the plight of the village, how difficult it was to survive up there, and how, a lot of people, like the elderly or sick, they just end up dying in their own homes. Anyone with money, they end up leaving. The kids, by the time they're 5, 6 years old, they're subjected to a very hard life of labor in the fields. There's no access to outside education. The girls at that time, as young as 15, they were getting married. So, it's just a totally different life up there, right? Infant mortality was high, 2 out of 5 kids died. So, it's like all these things I started learning, and I was thinking, wow, like, why am I so focused on something that really doesn't matter, like climbing the mountain? In the grand scheme of things, there's far more important things.
You started to realize that. You woke up.
I woke up. Yeah. And I got out of I think it helped me, that whole process just helped me get out of my own mind. Right. So, which was really important in terms of,
well, it's the ego. I gotta say that too. I'm sorry. It is, because I went through that too. We all go through that, and we come out of it. And it's interesting because when you come out of it, then you see it in other people, and you're like, oh, I used to be like that. But then, and you see it, but you don't see it at the time. But then, you wake up and you're like, oh, and you realize what's important. And a lot of that comes with time and with age too.
I think so. Yeah. And I think everyone's on their own journey, and
yes,
they find it in different ways. But,
yes.
But I think, it's almost like going from, I don't know. Life just becomes so much more fulfilling and meaningful,
right,
when we live from the heart, right? When we start to speak the language of the heart and understand that, and connect with each other on that, just life, it almost just becomes a whole
Magical.
different experience, magical. Yeah, just beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can no longer go back. Once we've gone there,
Correct.
it
Right.
doesn't, we can't, it's
There's no going back.
yeah,
Well, and I think that's beautiful that you learned that. That's awesome because a lot of people never learn it. And I always try to tell people, think with your heart, not with your head. And I think
yeah,
that's wonderful that you say that.
yeah.
So you got in there and you started to meet these people and you were heartfelt about their situation.
Yeah, I mean, again, and the whole vibration of the place, I think, played a lot to do with it as well, because
Mhm.
it sort of helped my energetic vibration tune into that heart centric.
It changed you.
Exactly, yeah. The vibration of the place changed me for sure. It changed all of us in our own way, right? I
That's
mean,
so awesome.
yeah, it was so overpowering that being in there, that you couldn't help but feel it, right? And just
Right.
open the heart. And I think I think that's what these places, again, going back to the Dalai Lama's words, like that's what these places do. They uncover what's deep within. They
Yeah.
uncover the heart. They open the heart so we can then,
Yeah.
again, connect with each other and ourselves from
Mhm.
that perspective first. So, by the time we went to this other little village called Nar, because if I had climbed the mountain, I would not have time. I would have not have had time to go there. But because I did not do that, we ended up going to this other little village called Nar.
Mhm.
And what I learned when I got there was that there was this little stone school.
Okay.
And at the stone school, when we got there was this little 7-year-old girl teaching English numbers to this group of 17 kids. And I just felt an immediate connection, like something familial, something
Like you knew her.
like I knew, yeah, something that I recognized, not physically but energetically.
Mhm.
And Chantal, my wife, and her and I, somehow we all felt it. And when we came, and we had seen hundreds of kids. I mean, it's not like, and it's not like we were even looking for that, but something connected in that one spark of a moment.
Mhm.
And that changed everything. That changed my life. That changed my wife and I, our lives. That changed her life, her family. And it's just, yeah, I mean, we can get into what happened, but like it's over the next 9 years, it's taken my life in a totally different
Well, I just
trajectory.
want to say her name is Karma.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I just think this is so cool.
Yeah,
I'm like,
because
because I get books, you guys, all the time. And I'm like, oh, story of karma. So I immediately think until I sit down to read this book. And that's why I thought it was really good that you did that, because I just thought it was a wonderful play on words, because it's a person. And I wonder her name, and I thought about her name. Is that unusual that somebody would be named Karma in
not
Tibet,
unusual.
or is it common?
It is a name. It's a name like, Mary or Sarah,
Yeah, or
so
Nancy, or
it's
whatever. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
Well, no, you think about, because the way we think about karma, so that was another kind of, I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's funny too, because when I didn't realize it, but when we were, the more we got to know them, their father, actually, he told me a story once about when she was born.
Mhm.
And she was the fifth child. Well, they actually had two sons, that both of them died when they were young. But he said that when Karma was born, the umbilical cord, actually, no, first of all, they realized she was female. And so all the villagers were like, oh, this is a bad omen. You have another female. Because, again, they want the male, right? So they said, oh, no, this is not good. But then the umbilical cord just detached without being cut. And
Oh, that's weird.
yeah. And then so the villagers, they said, oh, this is actually a very good omen. She's going to bring your family fortune.
Yeah.
So, and I wondered if that's why they named her Karma.
That's cool. Hey, we got to go to commercial break, you guys. I'm here today with Michael Schauch. We're talking about A Story of Karma. It's his book. You got to pick it up. It's really a good read. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hey, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. We're talking about Tibet and we're talking about karma. So tell me, when you met Karma, did she feel the same way about you? Did she feel that energetic connection that you did? Same thing?
Yeah, there was some very uncanny things that happened. So for example, when I mentioned she was up there teaching the class when we got there, very confident in these English numbers. And she was only 7 years old at that time. But we found the teacher. He was kind of looming in the back. Mm-hmm. And and he, we had this musician there who started teaching them some music, and he started playing his guitar. The kids had never seen a guitar before, let alone heard one, right? And so they were getting into it. And then the teacher, he got motivated by it, and he brought out this Nepali drum and wanted the kids to dance one at a time in front of us. And he started with this little girl, Karma, but you could see that when he put her on the spot to dance, she just felt totally
Embarrassed.
crushed. Yeah, like she didn't know what to do. She was almost internally crying, just totally petrified, right? And so Chantal couldn't take it. Chantal marched up there, did her best impression of this traditional Nepali dance, and Karma immediately forgot about everybody watching. Just started connecting with Chantal, and the two of them, eyes locked. They were in their own energy bubble, and these 7,000 meter peaks behind them. I mean, it was the most spectacular scene. It almost felt like time stood still for a moment. And that was kind of what opened it. After that, Karma, she felt like she was very apprehensive around others, but around Chantal and I, for some reason, she was very comfortable. For example, she found where we were staying. Her and her friends found where we were staying after they got out of school that day. And she just bolted in, just ran in.
Oh, she went and found you.
Yeah. She found like where we were staying, and she just ran in and leaped into Chantal's arms. Chantal told me it was the biggest heart-to-heart hug she'd ever received from a child. And then Karma, again, very, careful around other men, but for some reason, she just leaped into my arms.
She felt the connection. Yeah.
She felt, and just, I remember her heartbeat. I could feel it. And she, her like little hands grabbing the back of my neck, and the force which she hit me nearly knocked me over. I mean, not the physical force, but the force of love that just came rushing at me. And so, so that's kind of what started opening that deep connection. And from there on, we just kept exploring that. Karma showed a very strong interest in learning, where her friends were asking for chocolate and candy and things like that. She was asking Chantal, we couldn't speak each other's language, but she was asking her, can you teach me these English words? Like she had on a little piece of paper.
So you could communicate better.
She just wanted to learn. Like she just wanted to, maybe she saw us as kind of a conduit to the outside world, right? And we've noticed over the years that I think she associates, because we asked her what's her favorite subject that she likes to study, and she always said English. And I think she associates English with learning about the world, and because she's been able to dream bigger, and her world has just grown as a result, right? If you think about where her village, having never left like sort of a 5-10 kilometer radius, she's never seen a bicycle even, right? No books in the village except for the scriptures in the monastery. So at that time it was, as I said, very, very isolated. So learning about, how often do we take for granted just having access to books and information, right?
I was going to ask you, how old was she when you met her? So this was 2012 when you took this, right?
Yeah. She was seven years old, and her little sister Pemba was 3 years old.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So she's grown quite a bit. So I'm curious. So tell the audience, like, what happened, like, to get, I know what happened because I read the book. Tell them what happened with her as far as, going to school and that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a long story, but so
it's okay. We have time. It's fine. It's fine.
We kind of, we sat down with the parent. Well, the father was away from, he was out with the yak, so he was 2 days away. But the mother was there.
Okay.
And I remember the day that we met the mother, and Karma, she brought us into her little stone home, a little dung-fueled stove in the middle of the room, and her mother was still out working in the fields. So Karma, she brought us in by the hand. She put out these little mats for us to sit on around the stove. She got the fire going. She got the kettle, for the tea going. 7 years old, and all this while looking after her 3-year-old sister. And Chantal and I were just looking at this like, I don't think this would happen, in North America.
Yeah. It's true.
And her mom came home, again, probably worked 12 hours in the field, but very graceful, very beautiful woman. Very weathered, right? Very, harsh from the elements, but very, just very beautiful, soulful again, right? and started making us tea and these little yak milk crackers and things like that. And anyway, we through broken translation, we were able to understand that for them, education, specifically for their daughter, Karma, is the biggest blessing they could ever hope for. And ask for, but they can't, it's just it's impossible. It basically is virtually impossible for them to place her in a school because of the funding and all that stuff and the access. And so we said, okay, well, can we work together? Can we help? Can we, see if we can work together to find Karma a suitable school? And that's sort of how we left the village back in 2012. And Chantal and I then went on this big journey to try and find this school that would be appropriate for Karma, because again, it had to be safe, like a safe boarding school.
Well, yeah, because here she is in her little village, so she would have to literally leave her home in order to go to school. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it's like what Sonam Dorje did. Who the guy I met in Fu, like he left when he was 14. So all the kids, they have to leave because there's if they want outside education, there's just no access to that up there.
So the parents stay and the kids go.
The kids, yeah. Oh, okay. So it's really
interesting.
I mean, it's tough, right? I can't even imagine, what's going through the minds of the parent. But there's a saying that I learned up there as well, like that the parents say, they say they'd rather their kids have a pencil in the hand versus a strap around the forehead. So, they want their kids to learn, right? And because they understand, even though the parents are, they don't have that education necessarily, they realized. They understand what it can do for the children, right?
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
So that and the other thing we realized was that the school had to be culturally aligned with Karma's ethnicity, because up in the mountains they're more Tibetan. And Nepal is like this pot of like hundreds of different cultures, ethnicities coming together, and most of the cultures in the urban centers are Hindu based, and they operate more on the caste system. So like higher classes, higher castes, and that sort of thing. And the people in the mountains are actually considered one of the lowest castes. So, and they'll know just by your name and by your look, the name and look totally different than people in the city, right? So if Karma was placed in any government school, she could have been severely racially discriminated against. So we had to find something that was aligned that way, and also just to help continue to cultivate her Tibetan Buddhist roots and the Dharma and that sort of thing. So so that's kind of what we went out there with, and tried to find this school, and almost, we were giving up hope, to be honest.
That would be difficult to do.
It was like time went, but we
call the Dalai Lama and say, dude, we need your help.
I know,
right? Did you think about it? I know. I bet you did.
It's we searched around Kathmandu, and we came back to Canada. We kept searching, couldn't find anything. Actually, almost a month went by when we got back to Canada, and one day I remember Chantal was like, well, you got to get in here. And up popped this school for Himalayan children that was started by this Tibetan Lama, high-ranking Tibetan monk who had fled Tibet in the 50s. And he had started this school, specifically the Sri Mangal Dib SMD school for Himalayan children, specifically for what he called the lost children of the Himalaya.
Because he knew.
He knew, right? And these kids are out in these mountain pockets so far away that they just get forgotten about. So we thought, oh my God, this is perfect. We wrote the school director once. The school director, she wrote back and she said, thanks for sharing the story. And it sounds like a bright little girl and blah, blah, blah. But she said, I have to tell you that our school is totally overrun. We have 500 kids at the school. We're busting at the seams. We've got 400 kids on the wait list. We've got kids being dropped off on the stairs that we have to turn away.
Isn't that sad?
And because of all this, there's only one person who can admit new kids into the school. And that is this 80 plus year old Tibetan Lama, the founder.
I knew.
I was like, I felt like we were being dropped down this black hole. I thought, why are there so many barriers being stacked against this little girl who just wants to learn? But Chantal had included our address in her email signature, and the school director said, oh, but I see that you're in Vancouver in Canada. You may be interested to know that this 80 plus year old Lama is at a monastery. He's at his monastery right now in a place called Richmond, which was like a 25 minute drive from our home.
I think that's so crazy. I'm going to stop you. When we come back from commercial break, then he's going to tell you what happened. This is such an awesome story. Hey, the book is called A Story of Karma. You have to pick it up. It's by Michael Schauch. His last name is spelled Schauch. Do you have a website, Michael?
Yep, it's just my name, michaelschauch.com.
Okay. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. And Michael, tell us what happened. So here you are, you're trying to get her into this school, and you find out that the guy who makes the big decision is in a hospital, or is it a hospital, or where?
In a monastery. He was recovering from an illness, but in his monastery. Yeah.
Right down the road from your house.
Right down the road. Yeah.
In Canada. Okay. Yeah. So this is divine intervention. I just want to point that out one more time. Okay.
It just kept happening.
I know. Yeah,
it's like,
isn't that crazy? Do you think back and just go, oh my goodness?
I was like, I couldn't, Chantal and I, we just looked at each other like, what? I mean, the whole journey bringing us right back to where we started.
So what'd you do? Just jump in the car and drive over there? Or did you call, or what did you do?
Well, he wasn't seeing anyone because he was recovering from this illness. So, but we were able to, so there's more to it. The school director put us in touch with this one Nepali girl who comes from a similar place as Karma and Pemba, their village, who had received a scholarship to study at a university, in a university like just near our hometown here. So so we met with her, and she's like, I want to take you down to the monastery. I want to take you there, because we told her the story of Karma, and as soon as, her name is Tashi, and as we were telling Tashi the story of Karma, and she just began to like break down into tears, because she knew. Yeah, she's like, oh my God. She's like, she was given a chance, right? Yeah. For education, and then she got this scholarship to study at a university here. And so she just felt like, okay, let's see if we can give Karma a chance. So she took us down to the school, or to the monastery, and it's funny because I didn't realize how much of a big deal this high-ranking Lama Thrangu Rinpoche was at the time.
Well, we don't, because we don't know those things. I mean, no, they wouldn't expect you to know that. Like protocol, is that what you mean?
Yeah, he's not quite like the Dalai Lama, but he's like one step or maybe two steps below the Dalai Lama. It'd be like going to Rome and saying, I'm here to see like the Archbishop. Just waltzing in there. And so the monk there, he's like, who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
I love it.
He's like, he's not Thrangu Rinpoche, has not seen anybody. But he's like, why do you want to see him? And so I kind of shared a bit of the story of why we were there. And then he said, and his whole demeanor kind of softened after that. Oh, wow. And I remember he said, okay, well, Tashi, why don't you take them for a little tour of the monastery and then come back? And so we did that. And when we got back, he said, okay, I telephoned upstairs, and Thrangu Rinpoche will see you. You have 5 minutes with him. Wow. And he showed us all, how you do all the like the greeting, and with the kata, like the scarves.
There's a whole thing. It's like when you go see the queen, you got to curtsy, the whole deal. Okay, I got you. See, I would have to learn all that. Okay. Yeah,
so we were kind of learning all on the fly as we were riding up the elevator.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
And
Are you nervous? I would have been nervous at that point.
Oh well, I mean, Tashi was shaking like a leaf, because she's like, this is her guru, this is yes. And she'd never met him before like that, so she's like, oh my God, we're actually meeting this person. And Chantal's like, Chantal kind of realized, and Chantal's like, you're doing the talking.
I love it.
So I thought, okay, well, here we go. And so we get into this room, and there is this Thrangu Rinpoche, and he's lying down on this this simple bed, and very modest, right? Just wearing a burgundy robe, and but he was glowing. I had never seen anybody glow before like that until that moment, and like this soft white kind of aura around him, and it's hard to describe, but his being in his presence. I've been with him now that was the first time, but I've been 2 more times, and every time it's like staring into his eyes is like looking into the depths of the universe, and just his presence, being in his presence, it's almost like it exposes your soul, like
Mhm.
out
He can
front
see
and
through
center.
you. Like
You
he
can
can.
see, yeah, right, and
Mhm.
it was just a very beautiful experience. So we were there, and I was trying to explain. It was all through translation, right? So I would say a little bit, and then it
Oh,
was get
okay.
translated, and
Mhm.
he would, he didn't say anything. He just sat there, just looking at me as I was talking.
Oh my goodness.
And I think, I mean, I had 5 minutes, but I think I took like 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
You pushed it.
I felt like I was almost like pleading for,
Yeah.
Karma, right, her life in a
Well,
way.
I think you were. Yeah, you probably were.
And then he, yeah, and then at the end he said, okay, the school is full this year. This was back in 2012, but he said next year, 2013, Karma can be admitted into the school.
Okay.
And so I was like, wow, and so that was it. That was kind of what got her in. And then for the next 7-8 years, we've been going back to Nepal every 8 to 10 months, and growing our relationship with the family, with Karma. And then her little sister Pemba eventually got into the school as well.
Oh, wow.
And just growing our families together. I mean, almost co-parenting,
That's cool.
their parents and Chantal and I just coming together to try and do what we can for these two little girls, give
Mhm.
them the best shot at life, right?
So how old are they now? Like, help me out here.
Yeah. So Karma's now, she's turning 16 this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sorry, no, she's turning 17 this year, and
Okay.
Pemba's turning 13.
Wow.
So yeah.
And do you have kids of your own, or have you kind of just like adopted these guys?
Yeah, no, we don't have kids. I mean, Chantal and I, we talked about it at one time,
Yeah.
but we never, like, neither of us felt like this burning desire, like we have to have our own
Yeah,
kids kind
but
of
you
thing.
have Karma and you have her sister.
Well, I guess that's the thing. It's like around the
Yeah.
time that we would have had kids, if we were going to go down that road,
Yeah.
was the time that we met Karma and Pemba, and we just felt like this familial connection to them. We thought, well, we're kind of here for them now, and not to take away from their relationship with their parents, but again, it just felt like this coming together of Chantal and me and her parents just kind of coming together naturally.
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
And they were
we're here.
okay with it. They were all right with the whole
Oh,
thing.
I mean, they were like, they were
Grateful.
This is the biggest blessing for them, right?
Mhm.
So and very wise though. I mean, like their parents are extremely, I mean, the amount of stuff that I've learned from them and how my mind has expanded,
Mhm.
through this whole experience has just been it's been phenomenal. So I think like their father said to me once, he said two things. One was that he said he never wants his girls to forget where they're from.
Right.
Never wants them to forget their dharma. But at the same time, he also said that he feels like under the care of Chantal and me being there, he feels like his daughters can go farther and faster in life.
Mhm.
So again, it's kind of that bridging, like we talked about at the beginning, sort of that bridging of tradition and modernity, and the world's coming together, right? Because we don't live in silos. We kind of live in this one world. So all these different dynamics. So I think the important thing is to really understand, what matters most, the most important things and your values, and be equipped with the tools so that you can make the decisions that benefit you,
Yeah.
in your community, without being swept up in somebody else's world,
Stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And like I said in the beginning, it'd be nice to get back to basics, because I think that's what you learned from this whole experience, was that these people, I mean, they have really good values and morals. They just didn't have the education part of it. Wouldn't it be nice if we could bring some of those, morals and values back, to Canada and to the United States, to the world? I just feel like that's what's been missing, don't you?
I think so. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think based on what we're seeing in the news today and all these, whether it's cultural divisions and we talked about
I
judgment
know. I know.
and just fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of the other. I mean, it's just all of that. If we connect, again, if we begin to understand the language of the heart and connect
Mhm.
on that
Level.
basis first, yeah,
Mhm.
all this other stuff kind of falls away. right?
Right.
But
The soul has no color.
Yeah. Then, then we can start bringing, okay, let's learn from each other's differences and that sort of thing. But if we approach each other based on these surface level things first, we're going to get caught into all kinds of traps here. And, whether it's fears or doing things that perpetuate a certain way of being. But yeah, no, what I learned from the girls is that, there are a couple of key things. One was that the more I tried to understand them and see through their lenses, not only the more could I understand them, but the more I could actually understand myself and begin to make better decisions and choices, in the world that I live in, for myself and for the community. And then the other big thing, which was an eye opener for me, and this might sound obvious, I don't know, but was just that, how often do we have expectations for others in our lives, right? Like whether it's an expectation of our own child or of somebody else in a relationship with us, somebody maybe we work with, we tend to have these judgments and these expectations of people, what we feel like they should be doing. But one of the things I learned from the girls was just to let that go, to just let it go. And everybody's their own person. What's right for me isn't necessarily right for them. Right. Support them in their own journey. Right. That's all we can do for each other.
Very good. Very good. That's exactly right. Because we're all on our own journey. And that's why you can't judge another person, because it's their journey.
Their journey, their own story.
You hit it right on. Yeah, you did. You did. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad you came today. You'll have to do another book. Is there another book in the works? Are you thinking about it? Or
I get asked that all the time.
Do you?
And from when this book ended in 2018, so pre-COVID, and everything that's happened post-COVID with the girls, and I could write another book based on that.
You have to do a follow-up. You have to do a follow-up. Then we'll know what's happened. Well, no, honestly, it would be interesting to see, over the years, you could talk about, I'm writing your book for you, but you could talk about the girls in school and, how they grew up anyway. I just think it's really cool. Hey, tell everybody how they get in touch with you, Michael.
Yeah. So you can visit my website, which is just michaelschauch.com. So that's MICHAEL. And then SCHAUCH.com. There you can learn more about the story and the girls and our trip to Nepal and all of that. And if you'd like to buy the book, it's available at Amazon or all your favorite bookstores. If they don't have it, they can order it.
They better order it, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, Michael, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you
so much, Nancy. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Hey, you guys, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will see you next time. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week, and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goal.